Hey guys, welcome back to a new video by Biology with Zhang Xuan. So today I'm going to review probably one of the hardest genetics question in the May June 2024 and also in a while basically. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of you have already familiar with this question or have seen this question somewhere before. And today I will dive deeper on how to actually solve this question without using the Punnett square. Okay, just using rules to apply to this question. So let's have a read at this question basically. So the pedigree diagram show the pattern of inheritance of a genetic disorder in 4 families. This genetic order is not sex-linked, which pedigree diagram proves that the genetic order must be caused by a dominant allele. So the keyword here is not sex-linked. So when they tell you not sex-linked is that you do not involve any X or Y chromosomes. So meaning in your Punnett square, right, do not add X or XI Y like that. You do not need to use this. And when they tell you it's not sex linked, it's just to use the normal A like that, like A crossed by A again, and then you get your offspring, okay, the genotypes of the offspring. So this is what they call as not sex linked. So this is applied as a not sex link. Which pedigree diagram proves that the genetic order must be caused by a dominant allele. Okay. Another keyword here they say is must be caused by a dominant allele. So now I'm going to apply some rules, okay, to solve this question without having to actually complicate yourself with Punnett squares and then here and there to decipher what are all of these genotypes that are potentially giving it to you. So this is the rule of thumb. The first rule of thumb is that do not skip a generation, meaning like the disease that has been caused by the dominant allele has to be there in every generation. Let's say, look at B. This is the first one that's affected. So this is the first generation. The second generation also has the disease. So this is the second generation. And this is the third generation. You can also see there's offspring. There are offsprings who are being affected by the dominant allele. The disease is caused by the dominant allele. So you can see it did not skip a generation. The second rule of thumb is a little bit complicated. This actually tells you the answer already, which they tell us that both affected parents have at least one unaffected offspring. Meaning like, let's say if we consider the second and the third generation, both of the parents must be affected. Okay, this has to be shade. Okay, to give birth to at least one unaffected offspring. So this is one unaffected offspring. Okay, so now we're going to look through. So since you have understand the rule of thumb, now we're going to decipher what are all of these answers. Okay, let's look at A. So A, you can see that the first generation has the disease. Second generation also has the disease. The third generation also has the disease, meaning like rule number 1, they pass. Okay, now let's look at rule number 2. Rule number 2, remember, both affected parents must have at least one unaffected offspring. So this is ineligible already. Okay, neither is here, also ineligible, because both parents has to be affected in the respective generation, and they must give birth to at least one unaffected, which this is actually correct. Okay, and this is also correct, but they don't satisfy the both affected parents. Okay, so therefore rule 2 is not satisfied, so A is wrong. Let's look at B. The first generation has it, the second generation has it, and the third generation has it. So rule number 1 is satisfied. Now let's look at rule number 2. Rule number 2, this is not satisfied. Okay, neither this is also not satisfied. Okay, although they have one unaffected offspring, but they do not, same as A, they do not comply with both affected parents. So rule number 2 is not satisfied. Let's look at C. C, first generation has it, second generation has it, third generation has it. So rule number 1 is of course satisfied because we see that all are affected. But let's look at rule number 2. Rule number 2, both parents are affected. This is satisfied, same as this. Both affected parents are satisfied, but they do not satisfy the last requirement, that it has to give one unaffected. So none of them are unaffected here from the respective parental generation. So therefore, rule number 2, the last one is not satisfied at C. So C is out. Let's look at D. So D, first generation has it, second generation has it, third generation has it. So rule number 1 is satisfied. Let's look at rule number 2. So rule number 2, you can see that both affected parents must have one affected, at least one unaffected offspring. So this one did not really satisfy. Okay. Remember, if one of the generations satisfies the rule of thumb, the entire pedigree is already caused by the dominant allele. Okay, that is something that you have to take note of. So although the rule number 2 for the first part did not satisfy both affected parents, but let's look at the second generation and the third generation. We can see that there are both affected parents giving birth to at least one unaffected. See, there's the one unaffected here. And the rest is affected, which satisfies this rule number 2. Remember, they just need to have at least one, and also one part of this pedigree showing both of these rules being satisfied. It automatically follows the basis of the disease passed by the dominant allele. So therefore, rule number 2 is satisfied. So the answer for this question is D. So I hope you have understood a little bit, but this may require a little bit of memorization of the rules. But of course, this question do not come often frequently because it's actually really challenging. But this is something to let you know, okay? Because in exams, you must not take too much time for one MCQ, okay? And of course, this kind of question is a little bit tough if you do not understand the rules properly. So if there are any questions, feel free to comment down in the comment section below. I'd be happy to help. And I hope this solves your doubts towards this question. Thank you so much, and see you again. Bye bye.